Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 509 of Ink in Your Veins. And I am beyond excited to be talking to my friend Greta Morgan today. You will love this interview. Her book is incredible. And I am so happy to talk to her. We're going to talk about how to find your truest voice. We talk about writing with community. We talk about treat-based writing. Stick around for this. You will not fail to be inspired and delighted and overjoyed with what she has accomplished. What has been going on around here? It has been pouring today. It's a little bit cold. I would like to say to you, Manawatia Matariki. It is tomorrow, or as this is goes live, it'll be our New Year here in New Zealand, and that's in Te Ao Maori, the celebration of when Matariki rises in the sky. And it means we are right here in winter, and we celebrate those who are not here anymore. And we talk about what is to come. And I have a few celebrations and things to go to this weekend, time to reflect, time to think about what is past and what will the future hold. So I've been thinking about that. I've also been going to Inkers Con, not related to Matariki. Sorry, that was a big screech right turn over into work. I just sent a email out to my writers list because I was freaking out. So if you're not on the writers list, please go get on it. RachelHerron.com/write. Please join. Um, because I've been going to this fabulous online writers conference that has absolutely freaked me right the freak out. I have been listening to fantastic presentations at this writing conference, and I've been absolutely convinced that everything I've ever done is wrong. I am doing everything the wrong way. I am not writing fast enough. I'm not writing enough. I'm not writing to market. I'm not writing in the genre that I should be writing in order to make money. All of those panicked thoughts were coming up until I sat down to write the letter to the writers in my newsletter, which is why you should be on that list because basically it's always me talking myself down, which works really well for all of us. And reminding myself and you that I am in exactly the right place and that you are in exactly the right place for where you should be. We get to make goals and we get to move toward them in whatever healthy, joyful way that looks like. And if we don't hit those goals, we get to move them. Beating ourselves up never, ever works. And having a panic attack about all of the things that I could be doing to market this book, to advertise this and that, and to optimize all of the things does me no good. There are some things I can take away from it. There are great things I'm taking away from this conference. I am loving going to it. I love filling my brain up. But we have to remember how to keep ourselves in a good, regulated space where we're not panicking, where we're just showing up to do a little bit of work. Oh, and so I will mention again, Beyond Affirmations is a 2-hour workshop that I'm doing next month, all about this, all about actually helping your thought process to be more manageable and kind, and also how to regulate your nervous system that does not talk to your brain very well. They don't communicate well to each other. So thinking to yourself, I should calm down. Everything's okay. I'm going to be fine. That doesn't actually tell your body to calm down. Your body doesn't believe you're going to be okay. So in the workshop, we're going to be using some somatic practices to make being in the chair where you want to do your writing easier and sweeter and kinder to yourself. And I needed to use all of those tools today after I saw a particular fantastic writer talk about how to make 7 figures, and my head exploded because I probably could, but I don't want to live in that particular way, the way she is living. I prefer to be able to go to the beach sometimes and to quit work early and go get a deep tissue acupressure session, which is what I'm about to do. And it's been solving all the problems in my neck and shoulders. So, yeah. Oh, sorry. I should tell you where that is. RachelHerron.com/beyond affirmations. you can go right to it, or you can click the link in the show notes from wherever you are on your phone, listening in your bed. Why don't you just click on it, go look at it? I would love to have you in the workshop. It is also included with Ink Village. Um, Anybody who's in Ink Village gets that for free. That's at rachelherron.com/Ink Village. Let us talk now about Greta. Greta Morgan is a musician, songwriter, and storyteller who began her career at age 16 and has since performed worldwide. She was a touring member of Vampire Weekend, she accompanied Jenny Lewis and has released 8 records fronting her own projects: Springtime Carnivore, I can't speak, Springtime Carnivore, Gold Medal, I really can't, Gold Motel, and The Hush Sound. I'm just so excited for you to hear her, honestly. Back to the bio. She has stopped performing for the time being to focus on long COVID recovery, which affected both her voice and body. She now lives in the Hudson Valley, where she leads a slow life of creek swimming, stargazing, meditating, writing, composing, and teaching. She teaches long form online songwriting and creativity workshops that focus on helping writers access their truest voices. The Lost Voice, a memoir, is her first book, and here she is. You're going to absolutely love this chat. Here we go. Y'all, I have been waiting so long to talk to this person. Will you please share your name and pronouns with us?
Yes, I'm Greta Morgan, she, her.
Greta, hello. Welcome to Ink in Your Veins.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be on this. I've listened to a bunch of your episodes and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we have known each other for a few years now,
Mhm.
and your book, The Lost Voice, just came out. I don't know, what was it, like last week? No, 2 weeks ago? No,
Almost a month ago, May
almost a
20th.
month ago.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for this book. And before, this is just going to be not like a normal conversation because you and I are friends. So here we go. I loved your book. You big jerk. I don't usually cry. I'm just not a crier or a laugher out loud. I do all of it up in my head when I'm alone. And like you made me tear up. I couldn't put your book down. I thought, I mean, you know that I teach memoir. This is my jam. Memoir is my thing. You nailed it. You brought yourself so completely and fully and realized on the page as an actual human being, a believable human being, and a beautiful human being who can be related to all the way through this gorgeous book. And I literally couldn't put it down, and I knew how it ended. Like, how are you feeling about it being out in the world?
Well, firstly, thank you for all of that. That feels so, so good. And you
Oh,
have been, yeah, such an inspiration and a champion and cheerleader. And so I really appreciate that. It's funny. I think one of the reasons that the book sort of worked is because I didn't think at all about anyone reading it while I was writing it. And then the night before it came out, I woke up in the middle of the night and had my first panic attack. Like I woke up in the middle of that, I was like, I can't stop it. It's coming out to, it's already on shelves. Oh my, people are gonna read it. And I don't know if you're watching like White Lotus, but I
oh yeah.
heard Parker Posey's voice, man, like, I'm gonna need a lorazepam. And I took a rare sleeping pill, which I never do to go back to
Yeah.
sleep. And then the next day when I woke up, I was like, okay, it's happening. It's out. I'm proud of it. And the release has just been oh, just so soul affirming and heart filling. I've been living in kind of a vacuum for the last 5 years. Like, for people who don't know me, I was a professional musician my whole adult life, starting when I got signed when I was 16. And I was like touring at kind of at the peak of my music career and powers. I was touring in the band Vampire Weekend and writing a solo record when I got COVID and lost my voice. But in addition to my vocal issues, I've had other long COVID issues, which have forced me to quit touring entirely. So I've been living in kind of a vacuum and not connecting, not seeing listeners in person. So doing even just the 3 book release events, even just those 3, it felt so connective to be able to see people and yeah, to meet them. Like I just feel my heart feels so.
Well, interesting too, and this is kind of why I just want to take this conversation far ranging, is that you have always communicated with people with your body and your brain, right? You've always, you've used your songwriting, your voice, your playing instruments to bring a feeling to people, but this time you're bringing like your body and your voice and also your soul to share with people. And actually, that makes me think that just the one quote that I will share from the book is that you're talking about being with your friend that you meet out there on the road, Sadie, and she says, "This is a quote: I wonder how your life will change as you become the one seeing and reflecting, rather than the one being seen." Um, and I couldn't stop thinking about that because, yes, in the book, you're talking about being someone who can see and reflect others. But in this moment, right now, the one we're talking, and your book is out there, you are not only being seen, but your soul is being seen. You are the mirror for other people, but you are showing your complete self. Could you talk to us about what that is like? Because honestly, memoir people who are writing memoirs are often terrified. They don't have one panic attack the night before. They have panic attacks for 7 years beforehand. So
I think I had many, like whatever the precursor to an earthquake is,
a
like
little
that, like on the
early
fault
warning
line.
shocks. Yeah.
I think I had a lot of those.
Pre-shocks.
I think I had a lot of those, especially related to, how the people in my life who I care the most about would react to the book, which we did have a really wonderful conversation about that when I was asking you, like, how do
Yes.
I talk to my dad about his appearances in the book? And
And you did so well with your dad.
well, and everyone in the book who I really, really love and care about read their parts, and we made changes. And I actually saw the author Leslie Jameson speaking in Woodstock when Splinters came
Oh,
out.
yeah.
And she was saying she always shows the writing to people who are in it, and that often when they make editorial requests, it makes the writing better. And I found that actually when people wanted to have something cut or they wanted to have something changed, I had to come up with an alternative. And I think ultimately it elevated the
Yeah.
manuscript. But as
Yeah.
far as your question about being seen, I've been a songwriter my whole life. And so I've been outpouring very vulnerable emotions, but
Yeah.
it's always been behind a veil of ambiguity. So it's
Hmm.
like, how do
It's
you say that?
poetic. It's
Why does
you
that word? It feels like bubblegum ambiguity. Like, yeah,
ambiguity.
there's been a veil that has protected me,
Right.
No one knows really what the songs are about unless
And
I speak
if,
it out.
yeah, because songwriting in so many of the cases is metaphorical, even if there are concrete specifics on in the song. But your book is not metaphorical. There are metaphors, of course, in it, but your book is look at what I am holding. Let me show it to you. Do you want to stand here with me? Oh my God.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's wild to be seen in that way. But the thing that, of course, happens with memoir is I'm sharing something that feels so vulnerable and so personal, and everyone who reads it and talks to me says, "Yeah, me too."
Isn't that
Like, yeah,
amazing?
right, even though they're totally different circumstances. Like, I think anyone who has had a life-altering event that knocks them off the course they thought they were on can find a point of connection with the story.
Yes, and you have a particular gift with it. I just think that this book is one that will make people say what all writers want, is for the reader to say, "Me too." No matter what kind of experience they've had, even if they've had a perfect life and nothing has ever knocked them off course, they'll say, "Yeah, me too."
Yeah.
So, could we talk a little bit about the process of writing this book? Because you really had a lot of wandering in here. We might have talked about it in a class, but like because you were for a while you were in the dark moment. You were kind of feeling your way through the dark moment of that book while you were still kind of thinking about what does this all mean?
Yeah, well, I think I wrote 350,000 words over this period of time, but I didn't think I was writing a book. I was just writing like pourings of life stories. And I took your class. I took actually both of your classes,
You did 90 Days to Dan and
and
90 Day
90
Revision.
Days Vision,
Yeah.
which I highly recommend for everyone watching this right now. I'm sure a lot of the people listening have taken it.
And if I haven't said it recently to people, like 90 Days to Done, 90 Day Revision these are clickbait titles. And I will always say that. It's like, yes, you can get a draft done in 90 days, but you will also perhaps write 350 words and then you will revise the book and you'll make it a totally different book. We can get things done in 90 days, but you will not get a whole book done.
Well, but the thing that well, actually, I don't want to give away a spoiler
You can
for the
give away
class.
spoiler.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
one spoiler is that halfway through the class,
That is a spoiler, but you can share it. I like it.
through the class, You're basically like, mwahaha. It's not, I don't care if you finish your manuscript. The secret is that I want you to become a writer and I want you to love writing and I want you to make this part of your life forever and ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the gift that you gave me, in addition to finishing the book. But that is really the gift that came, was like this permission to just write something, even if it's bad.
Hmm.
Write 500 words, write 1,500 words, like whatever it is, even if it's bad, and to just not go back and edit and just keep moving forward. And so, yeah, it's interesting though. At the time I was taking your class, I was just sort of thinking, I want to explore some new art forms if I'm not singing. Like maybe I'll start drawing and maybe I'll start writing. And at the time I took your class, I had been launched in this kind of nomadic adventure where my house in LA was full of mold. It appears in chapter 5. Spoiler alert. I had to
Terrifying. That was
I had to
awful.
throw away I had to throw away almost all my belongings, and it let me be free for the first time in my life. And so during that time I went and was living in Utah and kind of exploring the Southwest, the American Southwest. And at that point I thought that what I might be writing was something that was sort of like Travels with Charlie. Like I thought, like, oh, I'm witnessing the country and I'm in all
Right.
these very
Right.
lonely places by myself in isolation during this moment in history, this pandemic, which is an incredibly historic event. And so originally I was like zoomed in on what I was seeing and the fact that I had like been diagnosed with this life-altering neurological vocal condition that was like in the background and out of focus, and this other thing was in focus. And eventually it became very clear, like, oh no, you might never be able to sing again the way you have sung. And you
Mm.
spent 16 years building and cultivating your voice professionally, and 16 years before that, just singing as a child growing up. And this is the book you're supposed to write. You're supposed to write about your relationship with your voice.
Do you remember
So
that was it a specific moment that that clicked for you, or was it more of an everything adding up and piling up until you couldn't not see it anymore?
I think it was everything kind of piling up, and also talking to mentors. I think writing becomes real when you're in community.
Yeah.
Like it's really easy to hide out alone forever and just ruminate and ruminate and ruminate and write and write and write. But you can really tell by talking to people what resonates with them.
Yeah.
And the piece that always resonated was like, oh, well, tell me more about that. Tell me more about what singing meant to you, or like, tell me more about what you think you'll do now. And yeah, so eventually it became really clear that the book was about the discovery of my voice, kind of what does it mean for an artist's voice to break through, and then losing my physical voice and kind of reimagining, well, what does it mean to make art now in this new version of reality? So the
Right.
first half of the voice is kind of like fi finding my original singing voice, and then the second half of the book is sort of like losing my original singing voice and finding this new version of identity and becoming a writer. And I do love writing on the page. It's wild.
You're so good at it. Are you still writing bookish things?
You,
You don't have to tell us anything about it, but I'm so
I
curious.
am I have an idea cooking that I'm very excited about. I will say I journal around 1,000 words a day.
Yeah.
So I'm always on the page.
Yeah.
And I also keep this perfect moments journal where I write down the one moment of the day that I want to remember the most. I've been doing it for 10 years with
You
two
know,
of
I've
my
been
friends.
doing it since you told me about it, maybe
Oh,
a couple
oh,
years
good.
ago. And
Oh, good.
it's oh, actually I'd been doing a form of it. I remember telling you like in the spreadsheet, and I'm still doing it, and it's so fabulous.
It's so amazing
It's
because
yeah.
most journaling are like the thing, I'm usually journaling through problems I need to
Right.
solve. Whereas the
I'm
perfect moment,
whining. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. The perfect
Yeah.
moments those are the moments I want to remember. Like
Yeah.
actually, for one of my friend's birthdays, I sent him an audio message of all of his appearances, which he had appeared like 25 times. And he said, this reminds me of when someone in a movie is dying and they watch their whole life flash before their eyes. Like he was like, it's all the most beautiful moments, like it's so much fun and beauty and community and laughter. And anyway, so it's a
And
nice way to.
we forget them so quickly. We just forget them. And yeah, I'm not going to go down that tangent. I'm going to stick over here because I wanted to ask you about journals, and thank you for reminding me. There is a there's a tendency when memoirists who are also journalers sit down to write a memoir. There's this battle that they want to bring a lot of their journals into the book. and, put down what they were thinking, how they said it, how they were worrying about it on the page. And honestly, it can be hard for a reader to read. It's oftentimes journaling is not that interesting. My journal's not that interesting even to me. Um, but you only brought in a tiny bits of your journals and just small lines that were just so perfectly picked out. But I bet you also went through all of them at that time. How did you know to do that? Did somebody tell you, or did you know that intuitively?
Yeah, I guess that was intuitive. When I was going through my journals from high school, like, stories of my first band being on tour, I felt like I was writing a dissertation or something. Like I was, there was so much material to comb through, and I had my post-its out, and I was like post-iting by interest level and by subject
Yes.
matter. And
As where
it
writers
was,
sometimes get stuck. Like, I have to
yes,
use all this. This is all great. I've got to use it.
no, it
Yeah.
was it was
Yeah.
really, I feel like the editing process was savage. Like savage. One of the things I was thinking about is how, for example, at summer camp, I described these moments living with my best friend in this cabin at camp. We had a third roommate who we loved just as much, and she's not in the book. It's that savage. Like that's how savage editing is.
She
And
didn't even need to be there. She wasn't something that had to follow through. Yeah.
well, right, it was basically like if someone didn't contribute to me discovering a different dimension of my voice or discovering a different way to live after my singing voice had dramatically changed, they were cut. Because
Hmm.
that was every single scene, every single paragraph eventually had to follow that litmus test or had to pass that litmus test.
I just thought of another thing you did so well. We also talked way back about how to handle somebody who, and in the book you mentioned that this person is famous and
Oh,
an asshole. Um, and I think you did such a great job.
thank you. Yeah, there was a decision of whether or not to name this famous person
Yes.
who has been publicly, what would the
He's
word be?
he's rather famous for being a dick, right?
Yeah, he's been publicly and famously Me Too'd by a major news outlet. And
Yeah.
I didn't want his name to overshadow my story. I didn't want headlines for the book
What a
to come
good
out.
reason to change his name. And that is so clear and obvious, and I never thought of it.
Yeah, I mean, also I guess I didn't want him to sue me, but
He wouldn't
but
have because you did such a good job about it. But
well,
yeah, but yeah.
so I anonymized him, and actually the name, or it's a composite of two jerks who two of my friends dated.
I was
And
wondering how you got to the name.
well, once I started anonymizing, I also had to anonymize his album titles, and I had to I wrote some fake lyrics for him. And once I started doing that, I was like, oh, I think I could write fiction. This is really fun. Like calling his record Cosmic Meadow and like writing, I don't know, I started really having fun. I'm amazed in memoir how much you're allowed to change legally. If
Yes.
you if you put a note at the beginning saying names, characteristics, and locations have been changed to protect the privacy of certain
Yep.
individuals, you can change so much. It's
Yep.
shocking.
And what we want to do is always adhere to the truth of the room tone, the feeling in the
Mhm.
room tone of where we were at the time, but we get to adjust what we need to, sometimes for safety reasons, sometimes for story reasons, because it works better with the story. And yeah,
Right.
it's which is really confusing. I think, and people who start off with memoir as their first book, I think it's a large challenge to
Mhm.
to figure that out.
I thought I might do, so Melissa Febos often does this thing where she refers
I
to
love
people,
her.
will call her dad the captain, and she just never says his name. So
Yeah.
there was like 2 weeks where I thought I would call him the Americana singer. And then a friend of a friend of mine was like, Melissa Febos, she gets a pass. She's one of our generation's finest writers. She can do whatever she wants. But my friend was like, for you, I think it's going to create distance between you and the reader. I think you should anonymize. And I'm so glad I did.
I think you did it perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. I'm such a fan of this book. What was the what do I want to ask you next? What was the most exciting thing you realized about yourself as a writer as you were moving through this?
Ooh, um, like I could delight myself. I made myself laugh a bunch
Mm,
of times.
mm,
Um, and I think the other thing that was surprising and also challenging was I kept rewriting scenes until they felt more and more like the actual experience.
like the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, so just finding the texture of like, well, how did it feel to be in the canyon? Or
Hmm.
what were we eating at band practice? Or what was the smell in our touring van? And just continually going back in and finding the textures and finding the details to have it feel as alive as it did back then. That
Yeah.
that really surprised me. And that really is work. Like
Yeah.
I was hearing, I forget which writer it was. There was some famous writer. Maybe I can figure this out and send it to you before you share this. But he would swim laps for an hour and he would choose a different year from his life. And he would go like, okay, age
I've heard
13.
this too, and then
Yes,
take
and
it
just
apart.
yes, and try
Yeah.
to remember every single detail from that year of life. And I do feel like this kind of excavation, it starts to form more, there's a kind of neural bloom that happens once you start remembering things where the momentum gathers and you remember more things. Or at least that
Yeah.
was my experience.
That's absolutely what I've seen in my case and in the case of people that I've worked with. And also there's something to go back to the making stuff up is when we are building out scenes, I have students who will come and say like, well, I don't remember if the coffee pot was, red in that kitchen. And so we'll say, well, then try it red. Does that feel right? Try it cracked. Does that feel more right? Try it never cleaned. Does that feel more right? It doesn't really mean that, if you put the not never cleaned coffee pot in this scene, perhaps your mother always cleaned it and you don't remember that. But in your head, it feels more like a true room tone to say that the coffee pot was never clean. And because that says something, and you were really playing with that.
I love room tone. What a great
Yeah.
phrase.
I think it's
Yeah.
from acting when as somebody told me this a long time ago. So when you're looking for the feeling that you want the audience to receive just by their body language or what they're saying, that what is that emotion? Yeah.
Interesting. Oh,
Yeah. I
yeah.
could be I could be very wrong about that though. All right. Can you share a writing craft tip of any sort that you have come across either from songwriting or from memoir writing?
Yeah, imagine it's a movie. Like
Mm.
to me, I kind of think about writing memoir the way a cinematographer would. So I'm constantly imagining like I have this little camera. What am I putting in the camera at every moment?
Mhm.
So in that way, visualizing it as I go, it made it very intuitive. And I think also reading aloud and then putting it away and then listening back. Like to me, that really helped me hear sort of where I was getting boring and what was working and what wasn't working.
So you did that in your voice. You would record it and then listen back later. Because some people
I
use
would,
like a computer or the robot tone on your computer. But
so toward the end, I tried Speechify and I had Snoop Dogg reading the book to me, and it was not working.
I'm definitely going to try that with like a sex scene of mine or something.
Yeah, totally. Totally. But I do think like the songwriter Gretchen Peters talks about the sourdough method. So sort of, working on a song, putting it away, and then starting another song, and then putting away, and then starting another one. And then you kind of go back and revisit those in that order. And
Hmm.
I would do that a lot with the book. Like close a chapter, put it away for a week, and
Hmm.
then work somewhere else and go back and check it out. Because I really do think time is the best editor, and having a fresh mind is really helpful.
Time is the best editor. How was it working with your editor at the publishing house?
Oh, he was wonderful. So I met with a number of different editors and publishing houses, and we immediately clicked. And he had been a singer who can no longer sing because he has bowed vocal cords.
No.
The way we talked about the experience just made me feel like he had this embodied empathy. And also then I read two books he had written. So he's an author, and I read his books, and I was like, oh, we are such kin. So he was amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And
Yeah,
and and we can be plain because this was in, Publishers Marketplace. It sold at auction, right?
did
You
yeah.
had you were a hot commodity.
I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky because at the time the book sold, so I had had 2 months earlier, I'd had like a major health crisis, had to move back in with my mom to receive medical care and be cared for 2 months. And I worked on the book proposal while she was bringing me every meal I ate. It was like I would sit up for maybe 2 hours a day total, or maybe 3 hours a day total, and work on the proposal. And then by the end of the summer, we were getting ready to pitch the book, and Vampire Weekend invited me to do another album cycle. but I couldn't stand up for like, I couldn't even stand up for the length of a show, let alone 8-hour rehearsals. So I officially quit Vampire Weekend. I officially ended my career as a touring musician. And I sort of didn't know, I've been teaching, but that's not my full income. So I
Mhm.
was feeling I was a little bit nail bitey about what might happen. And then when the book sold at auction and I knew like, this is all I'm going to focus on for this next, year and a half, 2 years of time,
Mhm.
it just felt like such a gift from the universe. So
Mm.
I know that it is rare to get a publishing experience like that, and I just am thanking my lucky stars every day.
And you enjoyed it all the way through.
Yeah, even
That is so
the
great.
really hard days. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to write about painful experiences because I would have to relive them over and over to be able to make the page feel like the real experience. So that was really challenging,
How
but
did you
all
take care of yourself in those moments, on those days?
um well, I have a treat-based writing practice.
Tell me more.
I mean, sometimes it's like an edible treat.
Mhm.
Sometimes it would be like sitting in front of the infrared panel and meditating, which I considered to be a reward. Sometimes it would be a hot bath. Sometimes it would be a walk.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would write and then I could feel when I was getting tired and then kind of give myself space. And um, I have other friends who are writers up here, and we were kind of each other's ground control. That was
Mm.
really helpful.
Tell me more about that. How does that work in practice?
Well, I think just telling people like, oh, I spent this week writing about my parents' divorce. It was really hard for these reasons. And then
Yeah.
we would kind of be able to talk about it.
Hmm.
And yeah, having other friends who are really supportive and other writers who are really supportive, it made it feel so much easier.
How did
Also
you
in
oh, go on, sorry.
Oh, also in my when I teach writing workshops, I do something similar to Write with Rachel, where it's
Mhm.
sort of like study hall,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hosting these digital study halls. So songwriters in my workshops were working on music and I would be working on the book. And then even just checking in at the end for 5 minutes
Yeah.
was enough to kind of snap me out of a sad scene or a sad.
Yeah. I never really thought about how useful that is when somebody's working on a traumatic piece, but that is to be not alone in that
Right.
moment.
Yeah, to just have
Yeah.
like oh, now we get to laugh together for 5 minutes and feel
Yeah.
proud of what we made. And yeah.
In a total fangirl moment, I can't believe you were studying with Mary Gaucher, my
Oh,
my idol. I just think she is so incredible.
she's one of the most incredible lyricists, writers,
Yeah.
performers. I mean, she is an actual troubadour in the
Hmm.
age where the troubadour has kind of disappeared.
Hmm.
And yeah, she is also one of the best teachers I've ever worked with. Like the way she talks about, there's some scenes in the book, in her creative bravery workshop, and just, yeah, she's the real deal. There's so few songwriters like her left.
Yeah, yeah. That album she did with T-Bone Burnett as producer, I think I can't remember the name of it right now. But it's one of those like top three perfect albums. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with it. It's all
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, go on.
Oh, no, just one of the things I heard her say in an interview was if your voice isn't shaking the first time you play a new song live, you're probably not being honest enough. And when I heard that, I was like, I need to hear every song this person has ever written. And then when I started going to her workshops, I mean, her workshops are so invigorating and incredible.
I want to go to one of her workshops. It's too bad I
Yeah,
live so far. Does she ever do online?
she does do them online. Yeah.
New goal unlocked.
Yeah.
Um, all right, bringing it back to you, however. Let's see. What has been the thing that has surprised you the most about having your book out in the world?
Oh, what has surprised me the most? Hmm. It's funny. I guess what surprises me is like it doesn't feel that weird. I
Mm,
thought I thought there might be like maybe I'm speaking too soon and maybe I'm being naive. I thought there might be tons of like criticism or blowback or like people being upset about it or I don't know. I somehow I thought that it might be more destructive or something. And it's actually the release has felt very sweet and very meaningful. And the kinds of letters I'm getting from people are just so affirming and so kind. So that is surprising. I'm like, oh, okay. I was preparing to be like disowned by my family, like you're written out of the will, we're never talking to you again. Like my old bandmates wouldn't answer my texts anymore or whatever. Like I was sort of
Yeah.
preparing for everyone to hate me, and that's not happening at all.
You just made so many writers who worry about this feel so much better. And I would encourage people to read your book because you are not, you don't pull punches. You tell when people are acting badly or when they're kind of not their highest self.
Right. Yeah. But it's not like a takedown book in
It's
any.
never a takedown. No, absolutely not. It was how it
And I was
affected you,
very, and I was very generous. I think also I chose specific moments of people's behavior, but in general, I leaned on the side of generosity.
which is always the best way to go, honestly, because then we are able to cast the most critical lens on ourselves, which is difficult, but also the most interesting to the reader anyway. Readers never want to see takedowns. They want to see clear-eyed, a clear-eyed look into our own broken pieces.
Totally. Actually, the lawyer at HarperCollins, who
Hmm.
was amazing, he combed through the whole book for, any
Yeah.
legal possibilities. And I had said something negative about one of the doctors who had treated me, who had misdiagnosed me. And I had made kind of a snooty joke. And the lawyer said, I bet that felt really good to write. But you know what will feel even better? Taking it out. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I actually did feel better taking it out. It felt like the classier path.
It felt like the classier path, but also you had gotten some dopamine from allowing
Yes.
your editor, your agent, the lawyer to read it, like, haha, and now you can take it
Yeah,
out, you know?
exactly. Yeah,
Oh, that's
exactly.
so, so good. All right. Will you please tell us where we can find you online and everything that you're doing?
Yes, I'm on Instagram primarily.
Mhm.
I have a website, gretamorganmusic.com. I have a Patreon, which is where I'm going to start writing my next book. And also the next project will be a book and a record simultaneously.
Ooh,
That's all I'll say for now. But I'm going to be doing that on Patreon, and I teach writing workshops, but those are all announced on Instagram. So
perfect. Perfect. And your book, The Lost Voice, is available everywhere that books are sold,
yes.
and everyone should run out and get it right now. I am so happy for you, and I'm just so thrilled that you've done such an amazing job with such an amazing topic.
Oh, thank you so
Good job.
much. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.